following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, my name is Ken Gidge, and this is the Art of Politics. We're the only show that has a good Democrat, okay, and a great Republican. My partner in crime,
it was difficult.
Mostly. And boy, am I upset at you, Mr. Bill O'Brien. How are you?
It was difficult for you to say that, but
yes.
I appreciate it.
No,
Ken.
it was difficult because yesterday.
Well, and you weren't there yesterday.
Oh well, my third accident of the year.
Right.
Yesterday I was at exactly 9:50 heading towards Concord through the Easy Pass, automatic Easy Pass. In other words, you can keep going, don't slow down, up in Hooksett. It's brand new. And there was a truck in front of me, a big truck, and all of a sudden it stopped. The cop shot across, and the truck's axle was right there, and I hit it. Broke all the front end of my car underneath, blew the tires right out. I skidded, and finally I made it across 5 lanes.
And hopefully you weren't injured.
I was not. I have a cut here, or
right.
It's a new wrinkle. I'm not sure. One or the other. So
okay.
that's.
Well,
but I would. I wasn't going to vote for the budget.
Well, I got to tell you, we can get to that. But the fact is, you can take the Fifth Amendment on this. But I want to point out some facts here. The fact is that this happened at 9:50 at the Hooksett Tolls.
That's correct.
And you were due at the State House at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And that's about a 15 or 20-minute drive.
No, it is not.
Is that the story?
No,
I'm
going to stick to it.
Are you going to stick to that story?
I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
We'll leave it
alone.
Actually, it takes probably, you're right, about 15 minutes after you get through there. It took longer. But I have not, well, anyway, I was going to be a little late. But I didn't make it.
But you didn't, it didn't matter that you're going to be a little bit late. You weren't, the speed was appropriate under the circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I was, it was awful. But that's
I'm going to leave it alone.
That's the third accident this year.
Yeah.
It's
I wasn't aware
last
of that,
year, I got out of, which was a committee that you put me on, which was a liquor, studying the Liquor Commission, which, thank you, I did have fun doing that. Got out of the committee, hopped in my truck, and I was heading home, and someone rear-ended me. On the way up there this winter with the snow, my wife's car, not my four-wheel drive truck, 30 miles an hour. It slid a little, and I hit the brake just a little, and that was it. Hit it again, and then this one yesterday. So it's expensive.
Yeah, so one of the takeaways here is don't get in a car
with me.
With Representative Gidge.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm all accident out.
Well, you said you're going to come and vote against the budget, in which case, if you had, you would have increased the vote against it by about 5%. Because House Bill, as most people are aware, I hope by now, the state budget is represented in 2 House bills. One is House Bill 1, that's all the spreadsheet, this account gets so much. And then there's House Bill 2, where we actually make changes to the law to allow for the budget that we've just passed. House Bill 1 only had 18 votes against it out of, I can't remember, probably 350, 360 votes total. Yeah. House Bill 2 only had 12 votes against it.
I would have voted against both of them.
You would have joined me on one, but not the other.
No, no. Well, I just, I'm sorry, but the Democrats are the majority this time, and I think we could have done a lot better, and I'm really, really upset. But who gets up, because this was basically your,
Well, you know,
everything that was there was yours.
I certainly have to reach for bipartisanship when I can. And so I did speak on the budget yesterday. There was only, on House Bill 2, there were only 2 speakers. Mary Jane Wallner, who is the head of the conference committee for the House, spoke in support of the budget. And I spoke in support of the budget on House Bill 2. House Bill 1 I couldn't vote for several reasons. One was that we had handed to this legislature, we, having put together the prior budget, handed to this legislature a $57 million surplus, which should have been put into the rainy day fund. Rainy day fund is depleted. And so that kind of fiscal irresponsibility, just spending a surplus that's handed to you rather than saving it for a rainy day, I didn't think was appropriate. Plus, there was $1 million in the budget for Planned Parenthood, who I don't support. So I couldn't vote for it. I did vote for House Bill 2 because having passed the budget, we certainly have to have the laws to implement it. But that being said, I did get up and I thanked the legislature
Yes.
for extending what has been pejoratively called by the other side the O'Brien budget for another.
They've been using it against you.
They have been,
Yeah.
and if you remember,
Only one problem.
if you remember, and you don't even have to remember because the rhetoric continues, that this budget was the budget we put in place, the one that's just closing out this month of June, was devastating, and people were going to die in the streets, and people were going to be
you're
found
getting a little
frozen in the
ridiculous
snowbanks
now.
that were
Come
thawing in the
on.
spring. And it was, let
Oh.
me quote Maggie Hassan, Governor Hassan from yesterday. There were deep cuts and a radical ideology. And Mary Jane Wallner, who again was head of the head of the Finance Committee, there were devastating reductions. And according to the very liberal Jeff McLynch of the New Hampshire Fiscal Policy Institute, damage was done. And so we go from what was devastating 2 years ago to what is a bipartisan nirvana today. And how do we get there? By increasing spending about 2% a year, by increasing spending at the rate of inflation. So what is devastating when it's passed under the Republicans, all you have to do is add the word Democrat right before the word budget, and it is bipartisan. And a great
Notice,
and a
I'm letting
great-
him
and a
continue
great-
doing this
and
to
a
me.
great
Yeah.
budget for New Hampshire. That is truly the art of politics. It's the art of rhetoric.
Well, it is the art of politics, and I didn't stop you or interrupt you because it's the fact that it's just factual, and I'm not sure putting the word Democrat in front of it. And let's face it, we got sort of the Senate also is a real trouble for the Democrats. That's awful.
Well, you know,
I mean,
as I said during my speech, when we put the budget in place, we set certain standards. We wanted to live within our means, and we wanted to have no new taxes, no new or increased taxes and fees. We wanted to keep these. We wanted to reduce some business taxes because New Hampshire has the third highest business taxes in the country. And this budget passed this term with a Republican Senate and a Democrat House. Meets those standards, and I had to acknowledge it. That we were
Well, you
living
certainly
within,
did, from what I understand.
within our means. There's no new taxes, no unrealistic revenue estimates. That's something we wanted to avoid last time, and it's $800 million less than the budget that was passed by the Democrat legislature 4 years ago. That budget was $11.5 billion. This budget's $10.7 billion. And I have to tell you, if after my speakership and after this term I leave politics, I certainly don't want to, but if I do, it will have been well worth it because we changed the conversation in Concord. The conversation now is living within your means.
Oh, God.
The conversation is decreasing taxes.
Oh, stop.
The conversation
Oh.
is no new taxes, no new fees. And so
That's not fair. Come on, you did taking, we didn't even get the 10 cents a pack, tax back on the cigarettes that you took off. But yet it looks like we're going to lay off some workers up here in New Hampshire.
One of the things.
Excuse me, 30, 40 million. I think everybody would pay that tax of 10 cents more a pack just to keep people working here in New Hampshire. Don't you think so?
I don't dislike poor people, and people who smoke are more often those whose incomes are lower. And so we shouldn't be balancing our budget. We shouldn't be keeping state workers employed for the mere goal of keeping them employed and require people who are financially challenged to have to pay that.
Oh, wait,
the average smoker, let me tell you, the average smoker in New Hampshire earns $26,000 a year. And so we're going to increase the cigarette tax so we can just keep public employee union workers
If you
working?
absolutely believe, that it's okay to smoke, costing you and I money, not just in the taxes, because if you're saying they make $26,000, that would be the average, then they don't have any insurance. So what do? They walk through the emergency room door and there's their doctors. That's fine if that's what you want, but to charge them, and everybody knows once you add 10 cents or even more to a package of cigarettes, people stop smoking or slow down in their smoking. Isn't that what we want?
No,
that's a sin?
We tax people because we need money to run government. We don't tax them because they're subjects of an elite who has to direct their behavior by penalizing them for behavior that they think is undesirable. That's what you want to do.
I know, but you're not going to keep getting away with saying that it's okay, that we're not going to tax people, everyone, right across the board. We're not going to tax people such as smokers. We're not going to tax them because they're people too. They smoke. They should get 10 cents off per pack. But the problem is when they get sick, we all pay for it. And then that money could go to keep people working in the state of New Hampshire. I think everybody would say, sure, I'll spend an extra dime.
How many different ways can you be wrong in your argument? We don't tax people in order to just employ people. We employ people in government to get legitimate government means accomplished. And so this argument that somehow or another we have to tax in order to employ is just fallacious. We don't tax people, and we shouldn't. We do, and it's improper. We shouldn't tax people to control their adult behavior. Why don't we tax somebody that drinks too much coffee? Why don't we tax somebody that has a big Slurpee?
Everybody thinks that what you're talking about is not taxing everyone. Don't tax anyone. But what we're talking about is a tax that was there that we've lost $30 million. It's probably costing us another $30 million in medical. All right? So to charge an extra dime to get people to stop smoking. We do know cancer comes from smoking. There's no question about that. Anything we can do. But yet that dime doesn't go to something foolish. That doesn't attack that little tax there that people should be smoking anyway. That little tax keeps state workers working. Are you saying that what we ought to do is not tax smokers just because we shouldn't tax anybody, but it's okay to let a person go, a state worker go, because there's no money?
We hire, again, starting with your last statement and trying to work back through all of them, we retain public employees because they're doing some work we need to have done. We don't retain them or maintain their employment for the mere fact that we want to be employing people. That's not right. That's basically me taking your money because I want to give it to somebody else, not because it's
somebody working, family, maybe not a non-smoker. Maybe this individual needs insurance. And by the way, the Medicaid thing
government employs people because we need to achieve some legitimate government purpose. We don't employ people just for the mere fact of employing people. When we do, we end up with this kind of weak economy we see nationally, where we're just throwing money at non-productive uses.
Are you under the impression that we have too many state employees?
We have more public employees per capita in New Hampshire, and I want to be very precise about this, state employees, county employees, school district, local employees, we have more public employees per capita than they have in Massachusetts, than they have in California. We have a lot of employees here, more than we probably
Well,
need.
Massachusetts or California, I wouldn't use California as an example.
No,
California is you
Well,
know.
I'm saying more, if we had less. If I was trying to be, if we suddenly switched chairs and I said, Bill, we don't have as many as California, well, that would be probably
Well, California,
your
for
statement would
God's
be
sake.
correct. I'm saying we have more
See, I
per
can't win
capita.
today.
More per capita.
This
than-
budget's going to get me, I know.
More per capita than in California. Heavens, everybody knows that California is not just the west coast of the country, it's the left coast of the country.
Well-
and they've fully adopted your approach, which is we are just tired people.
No.
And so even there,
No, that-
and
it's
so we can do a better.
gridlock
we could-
gridlock at its best. I
We
mean,
could
come
we
on.
could do better in terms of defining our public employment needs than we do here. And part of it is because, well, there's a number of different reasons. We have so many dedicated funds that we don't watch who's being employed through those funds.
Well, you're smarter than me, and we won't dispute that. But to
But
be
go-
perfectly honest with you, if I was to buy a package of cigarettes and pay an extra dime with, the process of 20 million, 30 million a year extra to keep those people that you say we may not need or do not need working, I think I would do that just for the sake of keeping people working. And if that's what it takes is 10 cents on a package of cigarettes, fine. But you're right, don't charge anyone anything.
I
got
bet you,
another
I bet you, if I followed completely what you're saying here, Ken, I bet you if you walk down the street and stood outside of Cumberland Farms, and as your people are buying packs of cigarettes there, you say, "Hey, buddy, pay another dime to keep somebody employed up in Concord," they're going to say, "Thanks, Representative Gidge, I don't think so."
How many people do you know that smoke?
Actually, I'm hopeful that one of my good friends, Representative Baldessaro, has stopped today. So maybe not that many. Let's face it, Ken. You and I both know that smoking is not a great thing to do, and we don't advocate it. I don't advocate drinking 64-ounce sugar drinks. Going in and getting a big, what's this, a big Slurpee, I think they call
Yeah.
it. I don't advocate that. I don't advocate eating fried chicken. I don't advocate not getting out of bed early in the morning and taking a 5-mile jog. We all should, if we can, take a 5-mile jog. You want to know what? We're all adults. We get to make our choices as to what the quality of our life is going to be. To some people, smoking adds to the quality of their life, and they're willing to make a personal decision, presumably, to trade off part of their life expectancy with either the hope that it won't kill them or the knowledge that it will, but for instant gratification. Those are the decisions that adults make.
And
we're not, the founding fathers never would have abided.
How did we get from smoking cigarettes
it's a
here in New
liberty.
Hampshire to the founding
Because
fathers?
it's
Come on.
because it's a government operating under foundational documents that were drafted by the framers of this government,
Okay.
with founding fathers.
If I let this go, we're going to be talking about
you know what?
aliens from another planet. You have this way of, how do we start with smoking a dime here? We're at the founding fathers.
Because
You
it's
got
a-
to quote some
because it's-
Jefferson or
It's
something?
because it's a liberty issue. It's a liberty issue.
Well, when it
and-
comes
and
to
that's the difference. And
I happen to agree with you when you put it that way, but go down the road or ask your friends, is it okay for the person who smokes for you to pay an extra dime or an extra dollar a year or 5 extra or 10 extra dollars a year because we have to pay for that individual who has cancer, who can't afford it and has no insurance?
Where did you come up with that mandatory statement, we have to, we choose to? And just because we choose to doesn't give us a right to grab somebody's freedom.
We choose to.
You and I, we go there as a representative of the people and we pass a budget that puts into it funds for health care, Medicaid. We put funds in for unreimbursed patient care, for hospitals and other health care providers. That's what we voluntarily do. And you know what? just because we do that, we don't get to then go to people who choose to smoke and say, we're now going to take your freedom away.
Oh,
because
will
we
you
choose to
stop?
because we choose to do something
Use,
for you.
please, it's
It's
an
improper
addiction.
thing.
It's an addiction. It's something that I used to smoke. It was one of the hardest. In fact, they say heroin users say kicking the habit of heroin was easier than stopping smoking. It's an addictive thing, and it is, well, I guess we're going. But I think everybody's got to give you the credit, though, a little bit of the credit. You got up, and it was a great moment for you yesterday to thank everyone for passing basically your budget. And when you come right down to it, that's
One of
I
the
can't.
one of the things that was expected when
I'm glad
became,
I probably wasn't there.
one of the things that I expected when I became Speaker, and I would suggest that almost any Republican, certainly most any conservative Republican should expect, is that there's going to be a lot of name-calling. There's going to be an attempt to engage in pejorative rhetoric. And so if you pass a budget, it's just not going to be, that's all the money we have, we tried to allocate. It's going to be a devastating budget. It's going to be disastrous cuts. And so, you know, you put up with that and you kind of let it wash over you and all. And certainly that was my case. I understood, you know, that's what the rhetoric's going to be. But then to see the very same people who engaged in this rhetoric pass a budget that is substantially the same, only increases spending by the increase in revenues that's going to come in because government, you know, revenues are growing, and so essentially inflation. Then to say, you know, that 2% over 2 years is somehow nirvana. Somehow it's qualitatively different.
For people who watch the show, probably saying, why aren't you interrupting him? The fact is that you've got to give credit where it's due. The fact of the matter is it's almost exactly what you did. I mean, there are some changes, and when you get votes like losing by what, 12 people voted against them?
Yeah, and the House Bill 2,
I mean,
again, was 12 people versus everybody else.
I mean, come on. I mean, everyone, I would have voted against both of them. I just would have voted against both of them. I thought that, in my opinion, the Democrats are the majority. There are things that could have been done to help people who need help. I think the Medicaid thing is something that you guys are going to pay for, and it's coming up this year. I think Republicans will pay for not doing nothing on this. I think something should have been done. I think the Democrats should have thrown it right back at the Senate and those people and said, here, you do it.
You know,
you
mentioned Medicaid, so let's make sure we understand what we're talking about here. You're talking about the Obamacare and Medicaid expansion, and what it is an attempt of the federal government to coerce with, you know, bribes, extra money, as well as regulations, the states to increase the income eligibility for Medicaid. Now, Medicaid started off.
And how much will the government? By the way, this is our money that we send to Washington. We like to get a little bit of it back.
No.
Are they paying 100%? What are they paying?
We ought to stop right there.
58,000.
Ken, it's not money you and I are sending. It's money they're borrowing from China, and the Federal Reserve Bank is making up. And you know who's going to pay it back? We didn't pay it in. We're not going to pay it back. It's going to be our children. It's going to be our grandchildren, paying back money that we're spending. And there's something highly immoral about that.
Highly immoral.
Because it's taken away their American dream.
Let us hold on. Let's talk about highly immoral people who have no money for insurance. Do you know, I'm on Medicare, all right? I'm 67 years old.
I want to make sure people understand. Medicare is different than Medicaid. Medicare is entirely a federal program that we're paid into, and you get to be a certain age, you have a right to it.
But I pay in a supplemental, which went up $20. It's $180 a month. My wife is not 65, so she's paying $600, $700, $800 a month just to have an insurance. But there is a copay of $12,000. So this is really, if you really get sick, there is something. We figured it out. $10,500 a year we pay just to have insurance, and I'm on Medicare. So people who don't have anything especially in insurance. 61% of the highest percentage of people who file for bankruptcy is because they can't pay medical bills. Destroying families, houses, everybody's losing. We got to do something. Now, Obama comes along and does something, and guess what? Everybody calls it Obamacare. It's the worst thing to do. Either we do something to help the people here in this country, or we don't.
There comes a point when you have to look past the rhetoric that you just gave us an example of and look at the facts of what has been done and said, is this something we want? What we've done is take a failed program, Medicaid, that was supposed to be stopgap insurance for indigent people when it was first put in place. The anticipation was, depending on how wealthy a state was, it was going to be between 2 and 4% of the population. Under Obamacare and Medicaid expansion, we're going to expand that up to 20% of the population. And it is very inadequate care. There's a Virginia study.
Oh, here we go again.
There's a Virginia study
oh,
that shows that you're 13% more likely to die in surgery than if you have no insurance at all.
Have you? That's a great statistic. And all right, okay, we're gonna.
No, it isn't. And let me give you another. Give you an example of what's going to happen in New Hampshire. You say we're expanding it to cover uninsured. It's going to take 22,000 people who are uninsured and give them insurance. It's going to take 38,000 people out of private insurance and bring them into Medicaid. You're 97% more likely to die in surgery if you have Medicaid than if you have private insurance. Those are the facts, Ken. And so what we're doing is we're giving 38,000 people inadequate insurance so that we can give 22,000 people who would be better off if they didn't have Medicaid coverage.
Okay, you're not getting the last. I want the last word on this one.
This is
61% of these people that we're going to give this Medicaid to are women. Republicans are having a hard time with women. On that note, would you like to say goodbye?
No, not at all.
No. We'll be back very shortly.
Thanks.
All right. Now, give your website.
My website is O'Brien for Congress. You can reach me at o'brienforcongress@gmail.com or call me up at any time, and the number there is 620-8710.
Okay, this is really a two-part show because it's only a half hour. We usually do an hour. So we're going to come back and do the show right now, but you're going to see us within a week. So this is Ken Gidge. You can get me at gidgeworld.com, which is an art. It's an art, anyway, it's an art thing that you can look at. Our telephone number, 603-864-9332, and I'll see you next week.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.